And so the first thing we want to talk about is entity authority. And so before we would talk about domain ranking, if you're familiar with SEO, where essentially is like, how credible is your website? When you're Google, you want to be recommending a website or, a resource that is valuable. So you look at how, some key metrics, click-through rate, page visitors, keyword references, how many backlinks they are, getting to their website, right? How many people are citing this as an authority? And while some of that still matters and is still valuable today, obviously the foundation plays similarly. We now are looking at multiple sources to create this cohesive view. So domain ranking is one component of those multiple different pieces. And so to become the actual source that LLMs trust is way more valuable than just becoming the biggest one. So before helps you get into that initial pool. And so in SEO, we were optimizing for things like becoming the page that ranks, backlinks and keywords. And then when a buyer shows up there, a click to your site, so click-through rate. And we're seeing more and more with AI, because the user behavior is you do research on an LLM and then you go direct to the source. We're seeing click-through rate not actually be the most reliable metric anymore. Not sure why. I have some hypotheses on, just literally how ChatGPT and Gemini and Claude reference the sources, right? They're kind of hidden. And so we're not seeing that click through. And if people are, we're not actually always seeing that attribution. And so the highest type of attribution that we see is actually a rise in direct traffic as you start doing more AI efforts. Anyway, so for AI search, what the buyer is using now is they're looking at their LLM to tell them the entities that the LLM trusts. So when I go in and I type in best CRMs for mid-stage B2B companies, B2B SaaS companies, I want Attio ranking. Let's see if we got through this bug. Oh no. Okay, hold on. I'm gonna try to get this solved while we do it. A audit tool. I'm gonna get my little AI agents working on the background. All right, we'll see. I'll keep going while that loads, but I promise this will be up and working by the end of the session. We love the technical glitches. So when users go in and actually search on LLM, we want to be the one they mention, and it looks across the web. So again, we're looking at references of not only on-page domain authority, what the content you're producing, but offsite, reviews, listicles, your social media presence, what users are talking about you and how they're talking about you on websites like G2 and Reddit are becoming so much more important to build this overarching metric that we call entity authority. So how do you get named as the high entity authority? And so the first thing it looks at is how often is your name actually said across the web? Now, this is hard with companies and brands that maybe have more generic names, but remember, LLM has, while not the most intelligent thing in the room, it does have some reasoning and some logic to it. And so it is able to understand if it's talking about you in the correct reference. And so it is actually searching the entire web because it's trained on all the knowledge of the internet and continues to be. It looks at how you're showing up across every different website. And this is why we talk about social platforms like LinkedIn and YouTube becoming so much more popular, in addition to Reddit and G2, which have kind of been dominating the last 6 months. Because if you are truly an authority in your space, then your founders and your executive team also need to be representing that. So the engine counts how many trusted places talk about you. And those brand mentions move citations about 3 times more than just a generic backlink. Right now, genuinely, this is the biggest lever that we're seeing across the board, and not enough people are talking about it. And not all sources are created equal. A lot of people go, okay, great, this is a PR play. I'm just going to go get us some press. But often that press, speaks to a broad network, which is actually, it's good, but it's not as good as getting a more niche industry. And then they are, going and getting paid placements. And so as soon as an LLM sees something is sponsored or paid for, it automatically decreases your credibility on that site. And so you're better off not doing it at all. Now, when you do show up, how much of that is live in the third-party sources? Do you show up where you do not control the page? And so think of this.